Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. We're actually going to be looking at 4 issues today. We're going to be looking at the X-Men versus the Avengers 1 through 4 from 1987. Now, normally I read along with you because, that's my thing. But we're going to just narrate because we're doing 4 issues. And I don't want to do each issue individually. I want to just do the entire miniseries all at once. So the premise of this series is basically just to get the X-Men and the Avengers together. They hadn't been together for a very, very long time. Marc Silvestri does issues 1 through 3, and Roger Stern wrote issues 1 through 3. However, issue 4 is not neither of them. So what happened was during this time is Roger Stern had looked at X-Men 200. By the way, I have several playlists available. I have an X-Men playlist, a New Mutants playlist, an X-Factor playlist, a Wolverine playlist. I've got a playlist for everybody together. Everything is done in reading order, so check that out. So Roger Stern, after the end of Uncanny X-Men 200, the trial of Magneto had been left unresolved. What he wanted to do was basically finish that off. And there's an and, which will explain why he doesn't do the final issue. It was going to end with Magneto. I say Magneto, not Magneto. With a heel turn, basically, going back to being a villain. Roger Stern has never named names, but somebody put a kibosh on it, most likely Chris Claremont, because Claremont had spent a lot of time trying to rebuild Magneto, and he was gonna that face turn. Chris Claremont, I think, wanted it to be permanent, but he ended up going heel again, or at least as a sympathetic villain during the end of Claremont's run. That was partly Jim Lee's doing. Jim Lee wanted to heal Magneto, and Chris Claremont was powerless. At that time, Jim Lee had all the power. Jim Lee still has all the power. And so we went. But at this time, Claremont had the power, so he put the kibosh on it. So Roger Stern left. Marc Silvestri left because I think he would have finished it if Stern would have stayed, but he was offered the X-Men title. So he goes to do that. And so we basically, that's the premise. So the premise is, if you also remember, the X-Men are considered outlaws, and so Magneto, to the general public, they're unaware of his face turn, and everything is perceived as if he was a villain. So that is the premise of the story. And of course, you see the Crimson Dynamo here, so we're going to have something to do with that. So we get this cover by Silvestri. We got the Black Knight, Captain America, fighting Magneto, Wolverine, Rogue, She-Hulk. And so while the Avengers are fighting, you see the Crimson Dynamo is about to put the hurt on all of them. Or is he just after Magneto because, hey, he's looking here. So he's not looking straight, so he could be looking at either or. So this kind of is going to give you an idea of what is going on inside. So Marc Silvestri, beautiful art. And so here we go. Justice for All, and of course we get the credits right here. Roger Stern, Marc Silvestri, Josef Rubinstein, Ann Nocenti, and Mark Grenwold and Ann Nocenti edited this together. Jim Shooter, of course, is the boss. And rest in peace, Jim Shooter. Also, this is the end. The 1987 was the last year of Jim Shooter's time at Marvel, where he was unceremoniously fired when he was against the idea of them selling the company. Of course, he lost that battle. So, real quick, this is kind of the team of the Avengers. Other than Captain America and Thor, everybody else was B, and then of course Dr. Druid, which is a D list. Love the screen tone being applied here. That's just absolutely beautiful. So we see Dr. Druid and Captain America here. He's like, "Hey, who's in charge of security?" And then this guy says that he is. And look at this, an ode to Kmart. That is something. So, all right. So what the Avengers are trying to do is they're trying to evacuate these highly populated areas because there's some meteors that are going to be crashing on Earth. And so they need to disperse the people here. And you can see this bus here. He's like, "Hey, get this bus out of the area." And so here, attention Kmart shoppers. That is so awesome. That's Dr. Druid. He also uses his mind powers to help get everybody out. He can control minds. He's not really a I really don't know what Dr. Druid is. He's like a D-list villain here. So he's getting everybody out, and here comes that meteor shower. Here we got Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, who's a member of the Avengers during that time, and so she's going to try and get the small ones and destroy them here. And of course, she's like, "Oh my god, just too many of them." And suddenly here comes Thor, and he is wearing his greatest costume, the armor. Oh, I love this thing. This thing has yet to come out as an action figure. I am ready. I am ready. I have been waiting for this stupid armor to be released into an action figure, and nobody listens. Nobody. I have tweeted, I have Instagrammed, I have TikToked, I have done everything I can to try to get Hasbro or whoever has I can't remember, but I have been begging and pleading for this stupid armor. So he's gonna help out. So during this time, I am covering Walt Simonson's run on Thor. So the reason for this armor is Thor's bones are brittle. He was cursed by Hela, and so he cannot die. No matter what, he cannot die, but he is supposed to live in pain, and his bones are like as brittle as glass, and so he has to wear this armor to keep things from breaking. I don't know how exactly it works, since, strain would probably cause the bones to break, but hey, it's comic books. Let's not overthinking. And so Thor is going to help out to get rid of these meteors here. So, and then of course we have another D-lister, which is the Black Knight. I don't even know his name. Check out the website. Dane something. I don't know. Anyway, all right. And then She-Hulk is with him. Real quick, I have covered some of the Avengers titles, the Avengers during this time, the end of Roger Stern's run on the Avengers, which included Assault on Olympus and oh my gosh, when Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil infiltrated. So I got that story arc and then the Assault on Olympus. So check that out. I do have an Avengers playlist as well. So She-Hulk, of course, is complaining that she just has to be inside instead of, being outside smashing these things. And there's a meteor heading toward the Quinjet. And so Captain Marvel lets him know. Now, she can go the speed of light, so I don't know why she just doesn't do it, but hey, that's all right. Sometimes in comic books, that's the problem sometimes with comic books, that when you're like, well, why doesn't she just stop everything? She can travel at the speed of light. And so she says, Thor, can you help him? And she says, well, I don't know. I'll try. And then she's going to go ahead of him. And of course, it looks like they are going to crash. And she goes to Captain America, says, we got to get out of here. The Quinjet's going to crash. Here comes Thor. And he's like, stand clear, Avengers. And uses his hammer to try and slow it down. And you can see that the Black Knight is all dizzy, and She-Hulk is like always. So She-Hulk is gonna take this meteor thing, and then she's like, man, this thing is like super glued, but eventually she makes it out and tosses in there, and then here comes this bureaucrat, and they're like, I'll take it from here. He's from the National Security Council. And he's like, that rock's now federal property. And so they said that the Black Knight had detected, and this some of them, or that one of them was gonna fall apart over the populated area, and then the other one was gonna land somewhere in between Russia and China, but according to the Black Knight, his calculations said it should the impact is away from any inhabited areas. So, and then he's like, there's something peculiar here, and so he goes, it's unusually magnetic, and so he cuts a piece out, and you can see that the meteor goes and sticks right to the Quinjet. And he says that it looks like there is some construction in it, and the guy laughs, and he says, you've done our nation a great service, Avengers. I can't wait to tell our Russian friends about this. And he laughs. And then it says here, in the Soviet Union during this time, Russia was under socialist rule, known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. That's the USSR, and affectionately called the Soviet Union. So this is like the Avengers of Russia. I love the hammer and the whatever this thing is called here. So so we've got Vanguard, Ursa Mayer, not the Crimson Dynamo, the Titanium Man, and Darkstar, I believe is her name here. And so they're going to stop this wreckage here, or I don't know. But yeah, it was Darkstar. So there's gasoline here being spilled here, and so Darkstar uses her powers. He gets these two out of the way, and I'm going to put some water in there. And Ursa Major is sort of like the Hulk, super powerful. And the Crimson Dynamo is in there as well. But the Crimson Dynamo works for the KGB. So now, during current time, they're called the Winter Guard, I believe. But during this era, these super soldiers were the Soviet super soldiers, I believe. It's what they were called. And so the Crimson Dynamo comes to tell them that the reason all these trains derailed is because the part of that meteor that went through had like an electromagnetic pulse that basically caused the computerized system, and they went haywire. And so, of course, him being a KGB lackey, he blames somebody else that this was done on purpose, and so he's like, help me avenge the Soviet people. And so they don't know what to think, and of course the the Titanium Man's like, tell me more. So we're in Muir Isle because this is where the X-Men are staying. The X-Men are there because the X-Mansion, they don't believe is safe because of the Marauders here. And here we have Wolverine, we have Rogue, we have Dazzler, who's listening to music using her powers. We have Storm feeding the gulls. We have Magneto right here. And so they're listening to newer area, and of course Magneto's like, I prefer the classics. And Rogue is like, hey, You want to go swimming, Wolverine? He says, maybe later. I don't want to get wet now. And she's like, that's what you think. And she does a cannonball, which of course gets him wet. And so he's like, hey, don't do that again. I love this. So there's a fly. He pops his claw and gets the fly. So you can see, whoosh. And so here we have Havoc. And he's like, I can't believe the X-Men have accepted Magneto. And he used to be an enemy, yada, yada, yada. We all know the story. And so this is, again, Magneto created a face turn. He's like, man, Scott used to lead. He'd feel out of place now. I wish Scotty was here or Lorna. Lord, I miss her. So, real quick on that. These Summer brothers, Scott Summers, Alex Summers, Cyclops and Havoc. So he leaves Lorna to go look at something. Says he'll be back. When he leaves, so he's gonna go look for the X-Men to see what was going on. That was in X-Men 219. Again, check out the playlist. And he gets his answers. Lorna, meanwhile, Polaris, is taken over by Malice. She's now a member of the Marauders. But this mother doesn't go and check on her. What? What are you talking about? So, he doesn't. And it just reminds me of Cyclops because he leaves Madeline Pryor to go after Jean Grey in the beginning of X Factor, leaves her, doesn't go check on her, and this idiot does the same thing. And so now he's frustrated. Why did I join this team? And so he uses his powers here. And Dazzler asks if this was some kind of a storm, and Wolverine says just Havoc letting off some steam. And so they're going to go into the house. And so Rogue takes off flying. And Dazzler's going to go swimming. That water's got to be freezing. I mean, this is Scotland. I don't care if it's summer. It's cold. And so on the TV, a news bulletin is going to go through. And they talk about that thing with the Avengers, and of course, Storm reminisces about her not having her powers real quick. She's going to get her powers in about 5 issues of the Uncanny X-Men. So I believe 224 she gets her powers back. So they're almost there, but she is powerless during this time. And so she then just leaves. And so she's not going to listen to the rest of the bulletin, leaving Magneto all by him lonesome. And so they talk about that meteor, which has a large or exhibiting unusual electromagnetic properties. And he's like, wait, could it be? And he's like, I thought it was destroyed, but did something survive? So he's gonna go look himself. So he's gonna go in here and look at the onboard computer. It is 1987, but that's all right. So the computer says that it is most likely his old asteroid M. And so Magneto says, man, I don't want to involve the X-Men in this. I better do this on my own. So he takes off. But Wolverine saw him, and then he whistles. Or no, there's that we hear, and it's the Blackbird's warning siren. So everyone's gonna go look here. Now this is how you put on a freaking mask. My God, this is so awesome. Also, some of the dry brush being employed here, I like that. So Wolverine is like, there's probably trouble here, let's go. And they're like, where's Rogue asks, where's Magneto? He's gone. That's the problem. So Wolverine says it has to do, he goes and he says he snooped in the computers and says that this is probably related to asteroid M, which they believed had been smashed to bits by Warlock on New Mutants 21. Again, I have a playlist. I have that issue in the playlist. Feel free to check that out. Wolverine explains that the wreckage probably still had some of the old equipment, and Rogue's like, "Why worry?" And he says, "When he operated out of asteroid and Magneto was out to rule the world. If he's got his hand on that kind of gear again, who knows what he might do with it?" And in the Avengers Hydro base, I believe that the Avengers Mansion was under reconstruction after the events in with the Masters of Evil, and Captain America says that it was Magneto's old headquarters, and that the CIA and the KGB are sharing information to draw Magneto out, and they plan to kill him. So they're gonna be setting a trap. Of course, the Black Knight is like, "I can't believe the U.S. would do this," and She-Hulk's like, "Oh dear boy, the government." That's not exact, but that's what she means. You can definitely see, and she knows I can understand why they would want to get rid of someone like Magneto. Of course, Thor's like, "There's no honor in ambush, regardless of what Magneto has done," which is kind of funny because they served in Secret Wars. So, Thor and Captain America were there. Dr. Druid doesn't know anything about it, and he's like, "I don't know anything about Magneto." And of course, Captain Marvel, I love the screen tones being applied, says he's got quite the infamous history. And so we're basically going to go through his history. However, I'm going to skip it. Check out I'm going to move things along, but check out the website for if you want to get the plot synopsis and all that kind of stuff here. So other stuff in which Magneto has been involved with everyone here. And then of course I have X-Men 150 on the playlist. Feel free to check that out as well. And so now they're talking about the trial. That was in X-Men 200. I have that as well. And Captain America is like, he deserves, every individual deserves a free trial. You can't just kill him without a trial. So now we go to that Campuchia that they said, or Campucha, or whatever it is, and we see Magneto here with his 1980s uniform, and so he feels that it's getting closer here, and now Captain Marvel appears, and she says, "On behalf of the United Nations, I place you under arrest. Surrender, and there will be no need for use of force." And he's like, "You don't give me much choice, but my mission's too important to waste on you." So he tosses that. Of course, she's made out of energy, and that doesn't work. So now here comes Thor, and then here come the rest of the Avengers, and they're gonna take, we're basically gonna have the trial of Magneto Part 2. That's what Roger Stern was building towards. And he's like, "I have no arguments with you. Leave me." And they're like, "Nope, justice has to be done." He's like, "Self-righteous fools." And Dr. Druid uses his mind powers, and the Black Knight's gonna put handcuffs on him, but you see the Zack here. So someone is using energy, and that was, of course, a Dazzler. And here come the X-Men. And Captain Marvel's like, "No, Magneto's in our custody, in our protective custody," and Captain America's like, "Back off, Wolverine. Don't try anything stupid." Oh, has he never met Wolverine? And Wolverine here, beautiful panel here. This is probably the gig that got Marc Silvestri the X-Men job. "The only stupid moves are made by folks who try to cross me. Care to take your luck?" As he's got his claws popped. And Storm's like, "There's no time." He's like, he uses his scent. And he's like, "We got company." And Dr. Druid agrees. And then here comes the Winter Guard, or the Soviet super soldiers as they were called during this time here, plus the Crimson Dynamo. And so now we've got 3 groups of heroes ready. So they want him to stand in trial in Russia, and Captain America says he's going to World Court, and they're like, nope, he's coming to Russia. And Wolverine's like, I don't like what you do, and look at She-Hulk. We'll handle this. The woman moves to attack. Retaliate, my friends. And so here we go. We're going to have our first fight here. So thus ends issue number 1. Now, I love this cover here. His old helmet here as he's putting it on here. The Temptation of Magneto. The reason I said Magneto and Magneto is because of the spelling. It's magnet with an O. Magneto. Magnet-O. If it was Magneto, this would be a double E. Magni. And then T-O. So just because Stan Lee doesn't know how to pronounce things doesn't mean that we should continue to pronounce things incorrectly. So, Magneto. All right, so he's putting it on. Love this. Marc Silvestri is so cool. Again, I think this is the job that got him the X-Men here. And so we're going to have a recap. And so we're going to skip the recap because, hey, why are we going to do a recap when I'm covering this whole story? So here comes the fight. Again, we have our credits, same credits as the previous issue. So, this is Vanguard's hammer. I'm like, how did she get the hammer of Thor? So Uneasy Allies is our title. This is basically a superhero fight. We are going to kind of just move things along. You can see the action, so I'm not even gonna sort of narrate this. So you see Rogue grabbing Magneto because that is what they're there for, and the X-Men are like, all right, while these two are fighting, let's get the hell out of here. Which of course the Crimson Dynamo's like, hey, they're leaving with Magneto. And Dazzler's like, I can't let them follow us, so she's gonna like create a flare to basically blind them. And Rogue's trying to hurry and get him into the Blackbird. Of course, as I mentioned, that Captain Marvel can go the speed of light, so there's no amount of speed Rogue can go that Captain Marvel can't. And so they're like, we need to take him to trial. We don't want to fight the X-Men, but if we must, we will. And so she's like, so she's going to go back into the fight so that they can get the Winter Guard done with. And so Rogue's like, oh man. So we continue with the fight here. And so she like short circuits his armor or something. I don't know. Just a way to get this fight kind of done with. So you can see She-Hulk here and Black Star. So she thought there was somebody else, and she ends up imprisoning them. It's because, again, of Dr. Druid. And so inside the X-Men's Blackbird here, we're kind of gonna, now we start to get along with the story for a little bit. So Magneto is kind of getting over Dr. Druid's, how he had taken over. Now they're gonna see if they can get rid of the manacles here. And Rogue's like, we gotta get out of here before they find us. Again, but she can go at the speed of light. So all right. And so Magneto's like, no, we need to get Asteroid M as far from everyone. I don't want to involve the rest of you. And then Havoc is like, are you crazy? You trail off halfway around the world to save your hide, and now you want us to help you recover some old real estate? I love Havoc's, how he's this little part of his costume is always through, and no matter which direction, if Havoc is looking at you or away from you, you can always see this thing. It doesn't matter if he's turned around. So they're trying to portray Havoc as a hothead, but I don't think that is the intention that Chris Claremont wanted. But I think they just let Roger Stern kind of have his little 3 issues here. Well, it was supposed to be 4. But because Havoc wasn't like that in the X-Men when Claremont took over. And so she's like, you gotta calm down, or you're gonna break this bird. The meaning the airplane. Um, you're gonna disintegrate it. And so Havoc's like, what's so important about that rock? He's like, it's too dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands. And of course, Wolverine's like, why are your hands so good? And of course, we get more recaps of stuff that was in X-Men 112 and 113. Again, I have that covered in the playlist. And Magneto is like, people keep reminding me of all the bad I've done, and he says those days are behind me. And Storm says the Avengers must be aware of this asteroid fragment. If it is any danger, they will deal with it. Our job is to get you. And he's like, nope, I need to find it by myself as necessary. And so he leaves, and Rogue's like, should we stop him? And Wolverine's like, I don't think we could if he wanted to. And so Storm is like, well, he made his decision. He placed himself outside our protection. And then Wolverine's like, let's go. All right. So the X-Men are more than ready to abandon him. So we got the event, Dr. Druid using Darkstar to get everybody trapped. And Crimson Dynamo's like, when the world finds out that you allied with an evil criminal, he's like, we had him until you showed up. So, all right. So now they are going to go look for Magneto. So, and of course, they want to find him, and he doesn't want them to find him. So we got a game of cat and mouse going here. So Magneto says, I feel the magnetic field strongest here, so he must be inside the lake. So he's going to use his powers here and get the chunk out of it here. So he says it's the central core, and he says it's survive intact. The base is once again mine. So again, the goal was to turn Magneto into heel. So you're gonna start to see Magneto do things kind of like heelish, because that was the whole point. Until he was overridden, which caused him to not do issue number 4. So when you see that was the goal in mind, so it's like we're gonna have a heel turn again. That doesn't occur. So, all right. So you can see the X-Men are in the Blackbird, and the Blackbird has taken off. And Wolverine's all pissed, flaming waste of time right from the start. We should never have gone after him. Should have let him face the Avengers and the Ruskies on his own. Storm's like, hey, that's not what we do. And then she does cough, cough, and she goes, besides, wasn't it you who said we should chase Magneto down in the first place? He's like, all right, I'm just ticked off. So, all right. And so we have Captain Marvel go through, and she's like using a different spectrum so that she's invisible. And she goes, no sign of Magneto on board. What's that Wolverine said? And so, real quick here. So Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, controls light, or not control, but basically she's got light powers. So that's why she can go into the speed of light. She can turn invisible. She can turn basically anything the sun can do, she can do. This is one of those characters that is too powerful. And technically, Monica Rambeau is like Omega level. Whether or not she's portrayed that way, her powers are basically unlimited. As a writer, I would have if I was a writer, sorry. If I was a writer doing a story with her, I really don't know. I would have to depower her. She's just too strong. She reminds me of that character for DC Comics, Firestorm. Love it. Love that character. I love that big flaming head of his, the fire. That I just love it so much. But he is another character that is too powerful. Captain Atom, too powerful. What do you do? What do you do with these freaking type characters? It's just too much. So, all right. And so, basically they're gonna leave him, leave Magneto alone But Storm asks a good question. Do you trust Magneto to do the right thing? And he's like, I don't trust anybody. So if he gets out of line, we'll nail him to the wall. And then, of course, Monica Rambeau listens to that, and she leaves and says, if you don't, Wolverine, we will. So, all right. And so they're like, hey, what's going on? And she says he is by himself. He's not with the X-Men. And so the Black Knight built some device that can get readings, so they're going to find him. He's inside the asteroid and says there's a lot of damage, but there's still some stuff that works. He's got these explosives in there, and he just says, I like this part. Some things are best left dead and buried. And he opens the thing, and there's his old costume. So, again, we're supposed to get a heel turn. We just didn't get it. And so, beautiful panel. He puts on the helmet. And so, the helmet does not allow his thoughts to be read. And so, he leaves the costume but takes the helmet. And so, he leaves here. And now, he grabbed basically what he wanted. And he's going to get rid of the rest. And so, but the Avengers are right behind him. And he's like, get away, I'm warning you. And Thor's like, whatever. And so he throws the hammer. And, of course, this is ready to detonate, but he couldn't, they couldn't get it. And so he's mad, arrogant fools, you're endangering yourselves. Again, when you see this and you keep in mind that there was supposed to be a heel turn, it kind of makes a little sense. But the fact that there wasn't a heel turn, it sort of just I don't know. He looks cocky and like a jerk because the payoff didn't happen. And so you can see all this stuff shattering here. You got Thor there, so they're gonna try to get him here, and of course we got Captain Marvel, who basically can do anything she wants. And so the X-Men came back, and they're like, forget what we said. And so here now we're gonna have the Avengers fight the X-Men. So at first the Avengers were fighting that other group, and now we got this. So here we go. And so I like this part. The Avengers are no pushover, says Wolverine, and Havoc says, and neither are we. So here we go. The Avengers have to be tired. They just fought that other fight, but hey, they're the Avengers, so they'll have to take it here. So this is actually a good matchup here. And so here is Storm. Of course, she does not have powers at this time, so she's just going to wait in there. And they're like, why are you defending Magneto? And he's like, he's one of us. And so you're aiding a terrorist. Of course, nobody knows or it bothers to explain about the heel turn, or not the face turn. And so he's kind of waking up. He's like, stop. The asteroid is going to explode. And so here goes Captain Marvel, and she is going to fight it, but it's too late, and it blows up. And so Magneto creates a kind of a magnetic shield here, and saves them here. And now he grabs the X-Men into the bird, and off they go, leaving the Avengers. And they're like, where's Dr. Druid? And of course, you don't make that mention without them being there. So now the X-Men are heading out of their way. They helped them, and Wolverine says, something still smells rotten about this. Why are you wearing that old pot over your head again? Look, I was willing to keep you out of the courtroom, but you owe us an explanation, bub. Well, when are we going to get some straight answers? And so here you see Dr. Druid, but he's using his mental powers to keep everyone from seeing him. So here we go. Thus ends issue number 2. Off we go now to issue number 3. And so we've got Titanium Man trying to choke Wolverine or drown Wolverine, and Captain America trying to stop him here. This is the final issue of the creative team. As mentioned, issue 4 is fill-in issue. So, and so the X-Men here and the Blackbird, the Soviets strike back. Same creative team, and now here comes the Russians, and so Darkstar lets them go, and um, they're off for some revenge here. So she explains what happened with Dr. Druid taking over, and we get a recap here of the previous issues and everything Magneto has done to them. And so we got some introspection from Magneto here. Man, you can see the Marc Silvestri. This is still early work for Silvestri. I believe he had started in King Conan, and then he went and did Web of Spider-Man, and then this. Now again, this is inked by Josef Rubinstein, who has, or is it Stain? So has a little bit of a thicker brush, so that could very well be, but that's sort of what we got here. So the Avengers are looking for the X-Men, and so what we're gonna have basically is another superhero fight in this. So Dr. Druid is here. He's letting them know he's with the X-Men, but they were able to find him. So now Magneto has him, and Rogue kisses him to take his power. She is able to take powers on contact and uses his power here, and he says he got him before she could reveal his their locations here. But the X-Men have to drop off Dr. Druid somewhere, and he ends up making a call that he's in Singapore, and here comes Captain Marvel to get them. So so the X-Men disappear but left the Blackbird. Hey, those things don't cost money. So here comes the Titanium Man, and oh my god, the Crimson Dynamo, and where they're in Singapore here. We got everybody looking for the X-Men and Magneto, and so this does look very different than even the previous 2 issues here. So this is Vanguard here. Wolverine finds them. You know, it is the same creative team, so I don't know why it looks so different. But anyway, so there's Havoc here, who's like, oh my god, I can't let him kill him. So, alright, but he ends up tossing him, and there's Rogue. And so now she's going to take his powers, and so leaves them there. So, kind of a different way of basically filling, because this is supposed to be a trial. So we are, issue number 4 is the trial, but it's just kind of funny that we have 3 issues and we still haven't caught Magneto. It's just kind of funny, but these guys get on this boat here. So, and Magneto kind of thinks here, and he's like, you know, he's thinking about the decisions. Again, there was supposed to be a heel turn that didn't happen, and so Storm says, hey, we need to talk. He says, yep, and she appreciates what you guys have done, but I can't allow you guys to get into danger. I'm the one that the Avengers and the Soviets are after. Leave me. It's best I leave you for a while. They don't believe that I have changed no matter what I do. They will always see me as a villain. He says that the only reason. And so someone there says, you know, that they're stopped, that they're harboring terrorists. Of course, here comes the, I almost said the October Guard. That's from G.I. Joe. Anyway, so Wolverine's like, yeah, no. And he's like, get off me. So there goes Wolverine. So another fight, which is what we want. I mean, but still, there is a point to this story. It just shouldn't take, you know, but that's all right. So we're gonna kind of move things along so we can get to the final issue here. And you see now that the X-Men and the Avengers are getting in there, and so the Avengers are gonna help the X-Men, and they're gonna help everybody get off this boat because this boat is getting wrecked. But hey, let's not mind all the pollutants that they're gonna throw into the beach here. So, all right. And so this is Ursa Major, who's actually a dude, and so the boat's going down. Everybody got rescued. And I think, if I remember correctly, he ends up as a heel. So he ends up betraying the Avengers, but I don't know where or when, nor do I care. That was during the time in the early 90s. So, all right. And so everybody's saved. And here comes the Titanium Man, and they're like, this is also the Soviets are not going to be in the final issue. So this is a way of writing them off. So she's like, this is all your fault, and you're the one that did all this, and you're under arrest for creating all this. And they let the Avengers know that they can deal with Magneto. And so Magneto actually watched this. He's on another boat, and he's like, hey, are you business? And he's like, yes, unfinished business. And so next issue, final issue, the Day of Judgment. So here we go. This is sort of what this was all about. This was supposed to be the trial. Now, again, this is a different creative team. It is kind of funny because a 4-issue limited series normally has one creative team. But Roger Stern left in protest. And we've got the Judgment of Magneto. And so it's basically the trial part 2. Keith Pollard is going to be the penciler. So we're going to have, I believe, Jim Shooter and Tom DeFalco both script on this. So we've got Day of Judgment. So we start out with a recap because, hey, that's what we do in during that time, and I think it is important. We've got Tom DeFalco writing co-plots, Keith Pollard, Josef Rubinstein, same editors, but we have additional inkings here. So this looks like it was put together as a rush job, and then Jim Shooter co-plotting as well. So Tom DeFalco basically doing everything here. So get a recap. And so we are looking at the office of this Mr. Ronalds here. They're an organization trying that works for the U.S., trying to capture Magneto, and suddenly this door bursts open and the Avengers come through, and he's like, how dare you barge in here? And Captain Marvel says, by the way, Captain Marvel was the leader of the Avengers during this time. And she says, we hear that you've placed in charge of the international unit that's been given jurisdiction over Magneto, and we'd like some information. She wants to know what happened to the X-Men and the Soviet super soldiers, the future Winter Guard. He's like, the Soviets have returned to their homeland. As for the X-Men, they're mutant friends of Magneto, and they are currently being held in protective custody. So here we have the X-Men. And Thor's like, fool, you can only hold the X-Men for as long as they consent to be held. And so he's on the phone. You see the phone rings. He's like, at last Magneto's been spotted. And Captain America says, well, where? And he's like, none of your business. You costume clowns have already blown your chance at him. And so he's walking through Singapore, kind of contemplating what he should do. Busts into a tourist, and he, of course, recognizes him. See the mutie! And so they, of course, somehow hear this, and so they're going to go get him. And so here he is. And so now we're gonna have a bit of a fight here, and somebody calls him out. It's another mutant. It says, "Come this way. We'll deal with your pursuer so you can get away." And so he's getting away from the Avengers here, and so now he's somewhere else here. Uh, let's see here. He is known as the Light, and so um, he has a mutant ability to know when people are telling the truth, and he says, "Who are you?" And so I love this pose here of Keith Pollard. He says, "I'm Magneto," and so of course he says, "Yep, it's him." And so these are all the mutants, and that are in Singapore here, and they want to aid him in his fight against humanity. They give him some tea here. Suddenly, here comes the army and kills some people, which of course angers Magneto. And he's like, "Enough, stop this needless slaughter." And so he uses his powers here. And so he knocks everybody out. And so they're thankful that he was able to save him. But now he's looking at this and he goes, "Do I dare use this?" So whatever's in here. So the X-Men have been sitting there waiting for them to either be freed or arrested. And Storm's like, "Enough's enough," and so let's get out of here. So Wolverine uses his claws, Dazzler uses her power, Rogue busts through. And so Rogue takes the vehicle and off they go. And so now they have to, you see the Avengers here, and they have to find Magneto and get him to trial. And this guy is like, the X-Men has escaped, and they're rendezvousing with the X-Men, and he's like, "What are you guys waiting for? Go get him." And so the Avengers kind of go like, "We don't work for you." And he says, "I never thought I'd see the day when the Avengers would fail in their duty." And Captain America just kind of looks down here. So aboard this ship, Magneto is creating a weapon here, and he's building it in front of or underneath the helmet. And he says, "Pity the world, for this moment on, it will never be the same." Again, it was supposed to end with the heel turn, but it didn't happen. So X-Men looking for them, then now Captain Marvel. So we're going to kind of just keep on going through. We have had kind of a lot of fluff here. And so finally Magneto shows up here. You can see he's like, "Silence! There's no need for you to fight." That is awesome. And he's like, "I wish to consult with Captain America and the X-Men now." And so he kind of, I don't know, uses his magnetic powers to somehow create teleportation. So the Captain America says, "You must have found something in the asteroid," and Captain America says he did. Circuitry that, combined with his powers, will allow him to completely dominate any living creatures. And so he's like, "I never used this circuitry before because Professor Xavier, the former leader of the X-Men, was a telepath powerful enough to block its effect, but he's no longer here." And this guy's like, "All right, we can enslave mankind," and Magneto's like, "No." He's like, he wants to get rid of the prejudice of humans, and he says, "What's your opinion, Captain America?" And Captain America says, "I'm afraid I can't make things any easier for you, Magneto. You see, I believe in the sanctity of the individual. A man should be free to make up his own mind, have his own thoughts, even if that man is a bigot. Destroy the helmet before it's too late. No man was meant to wield such absolute power." And of course, this guy's like, "No, use it for the good of his people." And Havoc is like, "Listen to Cap. He's right. Enough. I have made my decision. I will use the helmet on you, Captain America." And so he gets him. He's like, tell me your opinion now that I have totally eradicated anti-mutant feeling you had. He says, it hasn't changed, just to believe everything I said for the same reasons. And he's like, oh no, you didn't have any anti-mutant feelings. You never did. You have shamed me, Captain. And so he takes this circuitry out and he says, perhaps I can begin to trust you now by surrendering myself to you. So, all right. So now we're gonna have the second trial, and here's Psylocke and Longshot, who never showed up in this series here, and this is all they get here. So Longshot says, I don't get it, Psylocke. Why are we in the United States while the other X-Men are in Paris? And Psylocke says, Storm didn't want strings the Avengers pulled to allow the others to attend the trial, Longshot, but she wanted us to be held in reserve in case of trouble. So Longshot says, I'm still new to all this stuff. I really don't understand what's going on. I thought the X-Men were formed to protect their own kind and to defend humanity from evil mutants. And Psylocke says, Magneto used to be one of the bad guys. He used to believe that the ends justified the means, and that the only way he could guarantee the safety of mutant kind was to conquering this planet. He committed quite a few atrocities before he decided to change his tactics. So we are basically going to skip over this trial, and so we are we have the same people that were involved in the issue 200, and so we're basically going to get part 2 of this trial here. A lot of trial stuff. It just isn't me worth going and rehatching everything. And Magneto's like, I have vowed to accept the verdict of the court. How can I honor that vow knowing that so many innocents will die because of it? And so later Magneto calls using the electromagnetic field, calls upon Captain Marvel. He wants the light, the character, and he says he thinks that one of the people there is a mutant, one of the justices, and he says that Lyco can detect mutants. I need to expose the judge before he sparks a war, and so she agrees to go get. But we get to the ship and everybody's dead. This guy says that the people are killing mutants again, and Magneto could have stopped it. And they're like, hey, where's Lyco? And he goes right here, and she is dead. So Captain Marvel's gonna see that judge, and of course she's invisible, and the judge is pouring a drink here, talking about the anti-mutant climate, and Magneto will get a war between mutants and people, and of course mankind will win, and you see them clap or whatever, clasp the glasses together, and she realizes he's not a mutant, and so she tells him, hey, this is probably not gonna turn out to be good for you here. So all right, and so he's gonna do some meditation here, and he's like, I can't permit the slaughter of my people. I must be strong and concentrate. And so he grabs his helmet from over there, and this kind of shows Magneto kind of stronger than anybody else has sort of portrayed him. So they go ready for trial. I like how the X-Men are in their costumes here. And Magneto uses his powers, get the power off, and he's like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, which they're like, yep. The helmet comes through, and he's going to use the helmet with the circuitry there. He's going to change this guy's mind, and but then he realizes, no, that's wrong, so he destroys it. They come in guns a-blazing, and he's like, everything's fine. And so we are basically, they're going to do a lot of talky talk I'm just gonna skip the talky talk because this video is already very, very long. And so they're basically gonna read this lesson here. While Magneto may have violated the laws of certain individuals and states and nations and may still be liable to their justice, this court has no right to judge them. He is free to go. And so Magneto is free, and we have people, anti-mutants, and he's like, what have I done, what have I done? And thus endeth the, I don't know how it would have truly ended had the same team stuck around, but it didn't. So this is the ending we got, kind of a resolution to X-Men 200. So basically the trial of Magneto part 2. And so basically nothing changed, and yeah, that's about it. So video is super long, so I apologize for that. It was 4 issues. So like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.